The other day I was giving a message and I was talking about how Jesus calms the storm and then how the disciples got all fearful. And then Jesus, when they woke him, he said to him, "You of little faith, why do you fear?" And I mentioned how that was pretty much Jesus giving his own disciples, his chosen 12, his first string, a disciple spanking. And my daughter happened to have that message on in the car, and my grandchildren were listening to it. And of course, my 5-year-old grandson, Jake, you know how kids do, he focused right in on, "Hey, Mom, what's a disciple spanking?" And I was thinking about how we as kids just perceive things, learn things, hear things. And that doesn't all change all that much because, obviously when you're younger, spankings, you know what that is. That's if you are of a family that doesn't spare the rod. Anyways, I was thinking about that. And then I was thinking about how my brother-in-law just mentioned to me about the scripture about, in Proverbs, it's the one about train up the child in the way he should go. And when he is old, he will not turn from it. And that's Proverbs 22:6. And I know so many of us that are our parents, have been parents. Hey, let's just face it, our kids will test us. Our kids will test our faith. And so often we have to put them on the altar. And I remember my own parents saying how many times they put me on the altar, and then they would get weak and they would pull me back off the altar, and then they put me back on and, turn me over to God and then pull me back. And it's this constant struggle because you love your kids and you're still growing as a Christian and trying to do your best that you can. And I was thinking about how today we want everything so instant. We want things now. Young people, they want to get that job. They want that high-paying job. They want to advance quickly throughout the company. They want their voices to be heard. And so we live in this generation that if you want to know an answer, you just pick up and Google it and, get some immediate dopamine or, get some immediate answer because you just want it now. We're not patient. But I want to just share how so often with God, it takes time. And that when we're learning something from Christ, we're learning something as a small child. My grandson asked about what a discipleship spanking is. And, we so often discard and we want to move ahead and we want to move on and we want our answers now. And I've been guilty of that. And I just want to share something that happened to me when I was a child. I would say 3rd, 4th grade. We lived in California and we lived out at the time, Newhall, Saugus area, outside of San Fernando Valley. And we lived in the mountains. I could go out in my backyard and there was hills and trails, and I would ride a mini bike all day long and never have to ride on the same trail. But there was this little hill in the back. And why that comes into play right now in this story is that we would go to church regularly. And one day the pastor was talking about the scripture where he said, if you have faith of a mustard seed, you can move mountains. And I just remember going home and that sticking in my head. And I remember in my bedroom faced the hills. And I remember looking out, and I had to get up on my bed because the window was up higher in the bedroom, and I had to look up over, and I remember seeing a hill over to my left out of the bedroom. And I remember praying, "Lord, you said if I had faith of the mustard seed, I could move mountains. And I prayed for that mountain to be removed. And I then watched it, and it didn't move. I remember next morning, I thought, well, maybe it'll happen overnight. Next morning, when I woke up, I popped up out of bed. I pulled myself up. I looked to see if the hill was still there. It was still there. So, fast forward. Years later, many years later, I lived in Florida at the time, and I got a call to go out to California, and another story. But anyways, I thought, I'm going to drive by that old house that we had, and I drove by the house. Sure enough, there it's at. You can Google Maps it now. You can look right at it and see it. But I noticed that the hill was gone behind the house. Yeah, well, they put a highway through that backside, so the bulldozers and all that must have come through, leveled it all out, took that hill away. But it, and we can sit there and say what we want about that. I just know that it meant something to me. And I didn't know when I said that to that mountain, when I was that little child, I didn't know what I was doing. I just heard it. The pastor had said it. And then I went home and I thought, well, he said we can move mountains, so I'd like to move a mountain. So I, childlike, innocently, went ahead and prayed for that mountain to be removed. I just know that for me, the Lord spoke to me, a witness to me about how, yes, you asked me to do that, and I don't have to do it in a miraculous way. I don't have to do it where you say to the mountain or the wind or the storm, calm, it calms, or the mountain to be cast into the ocean or it to be removed. It doesn't always have to happen immediately. But it was a witness to me that, yes, you asked me for that when you were a child. And it's taken now years for you to know that I did move that mountain. And so often in life, it takes a long time, years. We can't always have instant success. And that was a great witness to me. And it was a encouragement to my faith. And the point is that even though I know that bulldozers tore that hill down, I know also that it was a witness to me and that it was an encouragement of faith to me. And my point being is that we, when we are training up as a child and learning some of these biblical truths, and we are learning experiences and asking God to do things and asking God to do things in our life, if we don't get them instantly, we still need to focus in on Him and not lose our faith. And I say that because I have had, as an adult, situations where I didn't have the faith and I did veer off the path. I did, I guess you call backslide throughout different times in my life. And yet this word does still come back true in that experiences as I had with a child, when I was old, I would not depart from it. Well, I haven't departed from it. I'm a testimony that even as a child, third grade, asking for that mountain to be removed. And I, as an adult, now can look back and see that was one seed that was sown. And I've got many stories like that. And that's all part of God weaving faith into my life over the years, where I've seen God miraculously come through at times. And I just would encourage us that our child things, our childlikeness, our innocence as a child, and the things that we learn as a child, don't discard them. Don't be dismissive of them, because even as a child, we're learning things. And we might not know right away what the results are. And it might seem like failure, or the results might be dismal, and just hang in there. At some point, God will come through and he will show you what his path was. He will show you how he worked in your life. We have to stay the course to be able to find that out, whether it is a marriage, whether it is a job, whatever it might be in our life. Don't lose heart. Be encouraged that down the road, he is there and he will show you. And like in Philippians, it said that he will finish the work that he started in you. That's a promise from God. So don't give up hope. He will finish the work that he started in you. Believe and have faith.